Hi guys, I am back with another video. Meg Thee Stallion versus Tory Lanez trial day 1 and 2 recap. Let's get into it. Before we get into this, y'all like the video, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you'll be notified of my videos, and go ahead and share it if you like. Now, this whole case been kind of crazy. I've been like, oh my gosh, why this thing ain't over yet? Took forever to like really get into it. But they saying that gun residue is on Tory's hands as well as Kelsey's hands. And then one time they were trying to say she had bullet fragments in her foot, and next time they try to say glass and all that kind of stuff. But in the case it says bullet fragments were in her feet. She said Kelsey and Tory was both in the back seat. Kelsey was behind her, according to, the testimony. Kelsey was behind her and Tory was behind the driver's seat, and she was in the passenger seat. Meg was in the passenger seat. They got the fussing and all kinds of stuff, and she gets out the car to start walking, and then all of a sudden Tory is behind her with a gun saying dance be dance and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, okay. Then they said they found jewelry in the car, and they found different things in the car, and fingernails in the car and stuff like that. And then they said Kelsey's bathing suit strap was broken, and they like, okay, so was it Meg Thee Stallion and Kelsey that was fussing and they got into it, or was it really Tory? And so they said the statements and the testimonies was kind of contradicting themselves, and then later on Meg Thee Stallion came back with a strong argument or whatever. But anyway, I'm gonna let y'all hear it because it's a lot going on. I don't want to tell everything that's going on. I'm not going to sit here and tell you. But y'all listen to this. And as it's going on, I need y'all to comment down below how y'all feel about it. Do y'all feel like Tory really did this to her, and that's the reason why he called and was apologizing? Or was he apologizing about some other stuff because the fact that he slept with Meg Thee Stallion and he slept with Kelsey? Now, what y'all are going to hear is crazy, because that's why the thumbnail is the way it is. Meg Thee Stallion was slept with, I think they named at least 3 guys. Might have been more than that. At least 3 guys that Kelsey was with first. And then Meg Thee Stallion slept with them after that. And Tory and the baby was 2 of them. So that's kind of dirty. Like Meg Thee Stallion, they like really putting her out there like that. Like, really? You got that many bodies? I mean, you do you. But Kelsey's supposed to be your friend, and Kelsey was dealing with her first, and you go deal with them. Yeah, that's kind of dirty. But anyway, y'all listen, and y'all comment, and y'all tell me how y'all think it's going to turn out, what's going on, how you feeling while they're saying what they're saying. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into that.
We had opening statements. Opening statements are still actually going. We had to pause midway through for lunch. Better than TV. If you watch the prosecution's opening statement, you would say guilty. If you then watch the defense's opening statement, you would say, what the hell is the prosecution thinking, charging him? Basically, the prosecution started with this story. They said that, hey, they're all at the party, and Tory is leaving the party with Meg. They're in the car. An argument breaks out, during which Meg says and insults his skills as a rap artist. This leads to a situation where she gets out of the car, and he shoots at her feet and yells, dance bitch. And then she ends up at a hospital, and a doctor takes out 3 fragments of bullet wounds from her foot. Now, if you just hear, and the prosecution says that Kelsey, the other woman in the car, is going to testify that Tory shot Meg. And Kelsey has a text message where she texts somebody that, hey, Tory shot Meg. And then the rest of the prosecution's case is based on all these calls and texts where Tory's like, oh, I'm so sorry, oh, I'm so drunk. He never says that I shot him. He's just like, oh, I'm just so sorry, I'm so drunk. So question what he's apologizing for. So that's the prosecution's case. Seems pretty easy. Then the defense comes up, and man, it gets spicy. First, the defense goes, they're not telling you about half of what's going on. The most important thing they're not telling you about an eyewitness who saw 2 women fighting, Kelsey and Meg. And so let's talk about why them 2 are fighting. Let's talk about how she was in the front seat. The gun was caught in the front seat. Let's talk about how she might have gunpowder. She does have gunpowder. Let's talk about how this has nothing to do with the fight between Tory and Meg, and everything to do with the fight between Meg and Kelsey. And then the defense starts dropping the bombs. He basically says this, that they're in the car. Yeah, they left. But do you know why they left? They left because Kylie and Tory were in the pool together. And Kelsey and Meg both felt some type of way about that, to the point that Meg felt really some type of way about that. And she was really trying to go, to the point that eventually, because of how Meg is acting, this is according to the defense, Kylie Jenner goes to Meg Thee Stallion and says, "It's time for you to leave." They all leave. The defense's point is what happens in the car is this. Tory questions Kelsey, "Hey Kelsey, why are you backing up Meg for me trying to, get it on with Kylie Jenner? Meg has been snaking men from you your whole life. I hooked up with you, Kelsey, and then Meg went behind your back and hooked up with me. And Kelsey, this is not the first time. You had been hooking up with Ben Simmons. Meg went behind your back and hooked up with Ben Simmons. You had been hooking up with DaBaby. Meg went behind your back and hooked up with DaBaby." And so the defense starts dropping all these grenades. The crowd is captivated. The jury is like, "Oh, what's going on?" And there's every reason to believe that there could have been a fight here, not between Tory and Meg, but between Meg and Kelsey. And the shooting could have not been Tory. It could have been done by any one of the other people in that car. What does all of this mean? Well, I'll tell you a couple things. First, Corey Gamble, Kris Jenner's husband, is going to testify, so this will continue to be must-see TV. Two, the judge is terrific. I expect a very fair trial. The lawyers on the defense side are terrific. I don't know what the government lawyer was doing, giving an opening presentation that made it seem like the most open and shut case ever, when in fact there are huge questions, including an eyewitness who saw two women fighting, suggesting that you have to explain that theory to the jury, and you didn't. So I don't love the prosecution's opening in that regard. Stay tuned. We'll have the full coverage here. It's up and it's stuck in the Tory Lanez trial. All right, we're back with the rest of the update in Tory Lanez. So we are taking our afternoon break. There's going to be more testimony at the end of the day. But right now, let me catch you up on what's happened since lunch. The defense continued and concluded their opening statement. They confirmed that their theory of the case is going to be that Kelsey was the shooter. Tory was just trying to break up the fight. Then the prosecution went up. They put on a police officer as their first witness. This is the police officer who arrived at the scene of the shooting. He testified about how he saw gun casings, blood spatter. This was a big mistake in my opinion, because the defense attorney ended up tearing this police officer's testimony to shreds. He basically got the officer to admit that they did not use the proper evidence markers to mark and identify the location of every piece of evidence. So the police cannot tell you where blood was found exactly in relation to the gun casings, where, based on the trail of blood, the victim would have walked around. They can't tell and paint the whole story of what happened when the person got out of the car. Why, if you can't paint that story, why, if you didn't use the evidence markers, why, if you purportedly have a very simple case, did you waste your time making your first witness a police officer whose testimony is going to get torn to shreds by the defense attorney? Big mistake in my opinion, if you ask me. From here going forward, the defense will always be able to point out that the government's investigation is completely incapable of telling the jury about the movement of the victim outside of the car. So if you're trying to inject reasonable doubt, alternative theories, you've now done a great job setting it up that the government's story has holes in it. All right, we wrapped up the first day of Tory Lanez trial testimony. Let me tell you what happened at the end of the day. This will be a two-parter. On this first part, let's cover what prosecutors believe is their key piece of evidence after the testimony they expect to get from Meg and the other woman who's in the car. So here's the prosecutor's point, that there's a jailhouse phone call reminder to everyone: when you get arrested and you're sitting in jail, they are listening, they are recording. What you say on that phone will be used against you. According to prosecutors, Tory calls the other woman who was in the car, Kelsey, and basically admits to shooting and apologizes profusely to her. The problem with that theory, according to the defense, is that, well, he never says he shot her. He's just apologizing profusely, and he could be apologizing for a lot of things. According to the defense, the apology is for basically blowing up Kelsey's spot and revealing that he had been in a relationship with both of them. What side will the jury believe? It's way too early in the evidence. That call on its own means nothing. In fact, the evidence that was presented was through a detective. They asked that detective, "Hey, when did you listen to this jailhouse call? What can you tell us about it?" He basically said, "Yo, I heard it last week. They asked me to go retrieve it from the system. I retrieved it. I'm playing it here for y'all today." What does it mean? What does he mean? What's he talking about? I don't know that from that, so I couldn't really tell you, and he can't. And the jury is going to be looking at the rest of this evidence to really decide that, hey man, when this guy's calling Kelsey and saying, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to," what's he talking about? Day 2 of the Tory Lanez trial is underway. It started with Meg Thee Stallion testifying. I'm going to take you through what she testified about in the morning. We're currently on lunch break. She's going to come back and complete her testimony this afternoon. It started with questions about Tory Lanez. She testified that she knew him only for a short time leading up to this incident. They were friends. She was asked, "Were you intimate?" She said yes. She was asked, were you exclusive? She said quite happily, no. Then they asked her about her relationship with Kelsey. She said that she's known Kelsey since freshman year of college. How do you know her? How would you describe the relationship? I found her answer very interesting. She said, I quote, we did everything together. They asked her, hey, how do you feel about being here today? She was struggling through the testimony. I was a little surprised at her answer. She said, I don't feel good. I can't believe I have to come do this. Not really sounding like a victim to me. She's a strong black woman. That's the image that the jury, I think, would have gotten of her. And I expected her to say something more like, I'm here for justice. I'm here to tell my truth. That man shot me. They asked her about when they left the party and when Tory got there. So she explained that initially she had gotten there with a larger group of people. Then later she asked Tory to come. By the time Tory got there, it was a lot fewer people. And then towards the end of the night, they asked her who was left. And she said it was basically just me, Tory, and Kelsey. And then we got in the pool. Then she said that when they were in the pool, her wig started getting loose. It was coming off. She felt uncomfortable, so she wanted to leave. She told Kelsey. Her and Kelsey went to the driver and said, hey, we want to leave. And this brings up the first point of contention where, according to Meg, the driver said, I won't leave without Tory. Now, obviously, Tory's team says Meg said she won't leave without Tory. And then the person actually, the defense attorney asked, well, why didn't Tory want to leave? And everybody was waiting for the answer to that question because that's the whole Kylie Jenner angle. Unfortunately, defense objected. The judge said sustained. She didn't answer the question, why didn't Tory leave? The whole situation in the car. She testified that, hey, look, we all got in the car. I got out, an argument started to break out. Basically, Tory started the argument. I was shocked when she dropped and admitted that this argument started with Tory saying to Meg, hey, why are you snaking your friend like this? And basically revealing that he had hooked up with both of them, that they had been cheated on by him. And this sort of led into the whole big fight. At one point, she gets out of the car, but then she did get back in because they convinced her to get back in. And then we get to the shooting. And here, there was some shocking stuff. So here's some of the key stuff. One, Meg described that, hey, look, I got out of the car, I looked back over me, and then I saw Tory holding a gun, pointing it at me, and he shot me after he said, dance bitch. But then, this is the prosecution asking the questions, and even in the prosecution asking the questions, she said stuff that makes you scratch your head, which leads you to believe that what's going to happen under cross-examination. The prosecution asked her this, where was Kelsey when Tory was doing the shooting? You know what Meg said? Meg said, I didn't see Kelsey. I only saw Tory. Question, was she in your field of vision? Because I mean, she's right there. Where was she? If you can't answer that question, that doesn't seem like it adds up, especially not in a case where the theory from the other side is that there was a struggle and that Kelsey was the one who let off the gun. If the victim can't tell you where Kelsey is, that seems highly problematic to me. The other parts of the testimony that were a little bit confusing is they asked her, where was Tory? Was he standing on the car? Was he standing on the ground? And she said, well, he was shooting up over the window, but I don't know if he was standing on something. And they asked her, how tall is he? She said, I think he's like 5'3" or 5'4". He's taller than that, but that's not tall enough to shoot over the window of an Escalade while standing on the ground. And then they asked her, hey, was he on the passenger door, or was he on the front door or the back door? That's what she said. He's on the passenger side. And they were like, all right, well, was it the front door or the back door? She said, I don't. The other part of her testimony that I found a little confusing, it didn't mesh with what the prosecutor said in his opening. The prosecutor said in his opening that Kelsey went to where Meg was, and that after Kelsey went to where Meg was, after Meg had been shot, that Tory was approaching them. Meg's testimony today was different. Meg's testimony was not that she got shot, she went away, and then Kelsey went to where she was, and then Tory came at the two of them. No, Meg's testimony is she got shot, she went away, and then she saw Kelsey and Tory both coming to them. Again, does not add up. We finished with, why did you not tell the police the truth? And this was very interesting, whereas typically prosecutors are in the business of supporting police officers. Here, they elicited testimony where Meg said, look, I didn't tell the police the truth because this was around the time George Floyd had been shot, and I thought if I told them the truth, they were going to shoot Tory. I didn't feel safe with the police. And I thought this was kind of weird, but she said it. She said, I'm a member of the black community, and in my community, we don't cooperate. What do I think? I think that the rest of the direct testimony is going to come out. It will be interesting. I think the defense attorney has a lot of room. Hey, what's up, bro? I think the defense attorney has a lot of room to poke holes in the story. And I think the rest of the witnesses are going to say things that the defense attorney is going to have to show that it doesn't all add up. That if Kelsey was right there, how is Meg Thee Stallion going and telling you that when I turned around and I saw Tory shot me, I have no idea where Kelsey was? Currently on lunch break 2 of the trial is in the books. Meg Thee Stallion has finished testifying. Let me catch you up on what happened in the afternoon session. It started with the prosecutor leading with this. She said, hey Meg, I know we went a little fast this morning. I want to slow down. And Meg said, yeah, I was a little nervous. And then Meg actually said, these were her words, she said, I want to feel strong, I want to come off strong, and I didn't. And then she proceeded to testify, and she did come off a lot stronger and a lot more sure of herself in the afternoon session. There were powerful moments talking about, he shot me, talking about the pain and the trauma and the emotion this whole situation has caused her, talking about how she initially did not want to do this. She wanted to try to protect Tory. And so there were very powerful moments of the testimony. She explained that ultimately she did decide to go to the police and say that Tory was the shooter because of the false narratives that Tory had put out there. In her mind, she felt like she was a grown woman. She shouldn't have been hanging out with these people, getting involved in this mess. I'm not quite sure who these people that she was referring to when she was like, oh, I shouldn't be hanging out with them. She was hanging out with like Kylie Jenner, her assistant, Tory Lanez. So I guess she just meant Tory. I thought that statement was very indicative about how Meg feels about this whole situation, which is basically that she did nothing wrong, she had nothing to do with this mess, and she just wants to be completely removed from the whole situation. She denied that Kylie Jenner told her to leave. She denied that the security guard, and Kelsey had at one point left and then came back because she said, I want to go back to get Tory. She said that it was the security guard who wouldn't leave without Tory, and that's why she was there. But at the same time, she also admitted that she didn't want to leave without Tory. So again, there was a lot of this. She just didn't want to say anything that made her image look bad, and I don't know why. She denied that there was any sort of relationship between Kelsey and Tory, which could have led to her being accused of going behind Kelsey's back. And like in the car, she admits that in the car, Kelsey accused her of going behind her back. So I don't know how she's denying that there's no relationship between. The defense attorney asked her, hey, what did Kelsey mean when Kelsey said that this isn't the first time you've gone behind my back? And Meg said, oh, I don't know. Then we get to the shooting sequence, and I think the defense attorney did a really good job here focusing on the fact that, hey, did Meg Thee Stallion actually see who was shooting the gun? I don't think there's any doubt that 5 shots rang out. The question is, who pulled the trigger? Was somebody pointing at her, and who? The defense attorney established this, that Meg is in the front seat, front passenger, that Kelsey is directly behind Meg, and that Tory is in the rear passenger seat. He got Meg to testify this. Meg gets out of the car. She walks a couple steps to the front of the car by the absolute front. And then she goes a couple steps beyond that. All of this took a couple seconds. Within that time, apparently, Tory Lanez has made it from the rear passenger seat to now being on the passenger side. And from the passenger side, he pulls out a gun. She said he pulled a gun. From where, it's not clear, but he pulled a gun. He points it at her and shoots 5 times. Right before shooting, he yelled, dance bitch, leading her to turn around and then see him with the gun. He pulls it, points, shoots, 5 shots. Where's Kelsey in all this? She has no idea. What does she then do? She then crawls away. The part that the defense attorney focused on is how, in a matter of seconds, does he get from the rear passenger to having a gun in his hand to being on the passenger side in position to shoot over the window at you, all in a matter of seconds. To me, there had to be something else that happened in that sequence of events from the time she got out of the car and the time the shots rang out. And then she completely denied that there was any sort of altercation between her and Kelsey. As to whether there was an altercation between Kelsey and Tory, and there has to be some altercation because there's a fingernail on the ground and there's jewelry on the ground. And so and Kelsey has blood on her. Kelsey has her swimsuit strap ripped off. So how did that all happen? And apparently there was a bump. She says that I saw a bump between Tory and Kelsey, and I guess the prosecutors will use that to establish why Kelsey has got her strap ripped and jewelry on the floor broken and a fingernail lying on the middle of the street. Bottom line, her testimony was strong, it was powerful, it was a victim telling you that a man shot her. All right, so from here, I think there's 2 important issues with this case. One, what are the other witnesses going to say? What's the driver going to say? What's Kelsey going to say? And what is the neighbor? There was a homeowner who lived there, who's in the house that is very close, very adjacent to where all of this is unfolding. He would have seen and heard a lot. He's going to testify. The other thing, the defense did a really good job of establishing that, hey, Meg's timeline here of in a few seconds, Tory gets out of the rear passenger, gets onto the passenger side of the vehicle, yells dance bitch, pulls a gun, lets out 5 shots. There could have been a lot more that happened there in that sequence, because that's a lot of things happening in a very small amount of time. And it is not clear from Meg's testimony that a jury would go ahead and say, oh yeah, that man pulled a gun and he was shooting out. I could see the jury looking at that testimony, looking at that sequence of events, saying that doesn't add up and that means reasonable doubt, or looking at it and saying, well, okay, maybe something happened here, but did this guy intentionally pull a gun and shoot at this woman? No, maybe there was another shooter, maybe there's another explanation of how those gunshots rang out.
Man, this case is getting crazier and crazier. Who do y'all think really did this? Because it got me all left, right, upside down. Like, I'm like, okay, did she get into it with Kelsey? And they just trying to protect each other because they were supposed to be friends for a long time? Or did Tory really do it? I need y'all to comment because I'm confused. But all these bodies she done been with, like, that was your friend Kelsey. Like, that was your friend, and you really got a nerve to be sleeping with everybody she slept with. Like, are you serious? That's too much for me. Man, I don't know. People get out here and just do whatever. Like, that's your friend, though. Like, I don't know, because I don't know. But me as Kelsey, if, Tory is the one that did it, I'll definitely be telling it because I'm not about to get in trouble for something he did. But if, I don't know. But anyway, y'all comment down below. Y'all tell me how y'all feel about it. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to Banger Plate Gang, subscribe to Trish World. Make sure you check me out on social media and make sure you check out my shop. Make sure you check out my IGT page. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, be blessed.
Anyway, enough of that stuff.